Hello, I'm Olivita Hunt.
I'm Maddi Townsend.
I'm Ruben Rodriguez.
My name's Alan Sun.
And we're presenting impacts of climate change on wildfire increase.
So to begin, we're going to talk a little bit about the science behind wildfires. Ecosystems periodically dry out more than their normal temperatures, and common causes of this drought, as seen in the picture, include heat waves, early melting of snow, or a combination of many different factors. And this early melting of snow causes longer and kind of drier summers. And fire moves a lot faster in these drier environments, such as the common phrase "spread like wildfire." It kind of shows how something as small as a match can lead to a really large fire that spreads really quickly. It's also important to note that that these occurrences are normal to nature, and it's only the more recent increases in both the number and size of fires that are more dangerous.
And wildfires basically happen in areas with warm and dry climates because that provides the ideal atmosphere. It provides less humidity and the dry brush that's needed to kickstart fires and have them really spread. And in America, that would be California, Oregon, Washington, like the Pacific Northwest fires, which are all over the news. And those have been becoming increasingly severe. And then also Australia and South Africa are really vulnerable to fires because of the ecosystems there. There's a lot of deserts, dry brush, and it's just really dry there. And so Western Hemisphere fires occur most often in the summer, while Southern Hemisphere fires occur in the late winter to early spring. And these are called the wildfire seasons, which is basically the period of the year where wildfires are really common, they're happening a lot and spreading, and they're just the most severe. And the way climate change impacts this is it essentially makes the fires more severe and more prevalent. Global warming has led to decreased humidity because of like the increased temperatures create drier conditions. And that allows for a larger burning area, which essentially means that more of wildlife is vulnerable to being impacted by the fires. And when these fires occur, especially when climate change is making them bigger, they release carbon dioxide, which goes back to the rising temperatures and basically creates a cycle. Climate change makes fires worse, and fires makes climate change worse. And a fun fact is fires emit the same amount of carbon dioxide levels as the European Union does, which shows the extent of this problem.
So fuel aridity is a pretty good measure of the frequency of forest fires. And fuel aridity is essentially measured by the probability of which trees turn into tinder. And there's like a very strong correlation between fuel aridity and forest fires. And like as you can see on the figures on the left, over the past few decades, anthropogenic increases in temperature has increased fuel aridity drastically. And because of that, we have seen the frequency of wildfires also increase. So wildfires also increase the likelihood of drought and insect outbreaks, which again like exacerbates fuel aridity and causes more wildfires and so forth. Also, reburns caused by previous wildfires make fire seasons, which is measured by peak fuel aridity, to be longer than previous decades.
Sorry. Now the question is, why does this matter, and how has this impacted our livelihoods as well as those of the ecosystem? So there's kind of two categories. There's the immediate effects and the long-term effects. So for the immediate effects, there's that the forest structure and composition has immediately changed. Now that the forests have been burned down, they're not going to regrow the same way they originally were, which can cause issues for animals and their habitat, as well as what plant life is growing there. Additionally, there's going to be an increased water deficit, which is a real issue in dry areas, such that Maddi mentioned. And for example, in Australia and California, there are already low water places, so the fires begin to dry them out. And then more long-term effects include the decreasing tree regeneration and forest regeneration. So these two are very similar. So essentially, the more often a fire happens in the same location, then the more likely it is that nothing is going to grow back. So places that have already had a fire are more likely to have a fire again, and they're more likely to not have any plant life. And this decreased plant life affects how much CO2 is being cleaned out of our system, and then changes the forest ecosystem because there is no new plant life. Now some of the effects it has on humans more directly is, for example, in Indonesia, when the fire season led to the closure of schools and more than 5 million students were left without an education for a period of time because there was just so many wildfires happening. And that's not even to mention the effects of wildfires burning down whole neighborhoods and having a whole entire displacement of families and communities who are now left homeless. So here are works cited. And thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email any of us.